Hi guys, Samantha from Jessama Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you how to cut out your polymer clay beads using templates, cutters and a blade. So I've got a piece of black clay here, and now I just want you to pretend that this is a nice beautiful veneer that I have made and is now ready to turn into a bead. We have textured the back and it's all ready to go. So please watch the previous tutorials to see how to assemble your bead and how to texture your back. So I'm going to start with the two that you can make at home, which is a polymer clay template and a paper template. Paper template you can draw by hand and then cut out, or you can design it on the computer if you want. The polymer clay template, all you do is you'd make the paper template first, put that on the polymer clay, cut it out and then bake that, and that is your polymer clay template. So you can make both of those at home with ease. So I've got a piece of black clay here ready for you to see me use, so it's nice and easy. Just try to position it in the right position so you can see exactly what we're doing. So I'm going to take a paper template, and now the nice thing about all templates, regardless of what material they're made of, is that you can reverse them. So you can put this down and cut it out like that, and then next one you could turn it around and cut it out like that, and then you have a reverse. So for people who make earrings, that's a really nice upside. Now the only problem with the paper template is that it is a little fragile, so you need to be careful. The same goes for a plastic template. They both cut out the exact same, but they are quite fragile. So you just need to be careful when you are using your blade that you don't cut into it. And the trick is to hold your blade straight up so you don't get angled edges on your piece. Because if you don't hold it straight up, some of the edges will be bowing in or bowing out, and you don't want that. So try and hold it straight up. Okay, and I'm just trimming all the way around. You can see it's a little time consuming, which is the downside to using templates. Okay, and let me just move that up. And then I'll just take my blade and gently smooth the edges, because when you're using the craft knife you can accidentally nick some of the edges. But there we go, you can see it's a very easy way to trim out your bead. It's very cost effective, so if you are on a budget you could make your own paper templates and then you would have some really nice beads. And you would do the exact same thing for a polymer clay template or a metal template. This one I got from Lucy Clay Tools. One you can make your own, one you will have to buy. They're the exact same, except that they are a lot more rigid, so you can be a little bit more aggressive with your blade. You don't have to worry about cutting into them. But other than that, they are the exact same. You can reverse them very easy. Now, another thing that I want to point out is if you can get a plastic template, oftentimes they are somewhat translucent. You do have to buy them. But if I place this down over here, you can see there is translucence once pressed down, and the advantage to that is that you can see your pattern underneath. Now I'm not going to cut this out, but that is the one advantage to getting a translucent template, is that you can see the pattern underneath. But other than that, all templates are made the same. Some are a little bit more fragile, some are stronger, some are translucent, but they all cut out the same way. Now another thing you can do is get this sort of a template where the hole is actually cut out for you. So rather than placing the piece on the clay like so, you will be able to take this template, and let me just smooth it out again. Take this template, position it where you think it looks good, so it's almost like that translucent template. Gently press it down onto the clay and trim out. And now this is great if the template is metal, but if it's plastic it can be very hard to use, because you want to be pressing your blade right up against that edge, because otherwise you can make a mistake. But the only problem with that is that with the plastic ones is that you can cut straight through that plastic, whereas the metal you can be quite aggressive with it and not worry about accidentally nicking your template. Then you'll just need to smooth out that join where your blade met up with the other blade. And gently smooth because some of the areas might not come out perfect. But there you are, very easy and very effective, and you can see exactly where your design is, so there is no guesswork. So those are the two ways you can use templates, two different types of templates. Now the other more popular way of cutting out polymer clay is with cutters, and you basically have two choices with those. You have a metal cutter, which is definitely the cheaper version, or you can get a plastic cutter, which is a bit more expensive but personally is much better. Now I'll go over the metal cutters. Metal cutters, all you do is just press that down and lift up. Very easy, much quicker than the template. The only problem with all metal cutters is they have this join seam over here, which means that you will have to gently smooth that out. And the problem with this is it can slightly distort some shapes, so it might not make that much of a difference as far as you can see. But if you're doing a symmetrical design, that little flat spot there where you had to smooth it out is going to make a huge difference in your circle. Another problem with these is that a lot of the geometric shapes aren't actually geometric, so things like squares, rectangles and triangles will have wonky edges and they won't look completely symmetrical. But if you're on a budget, they are a good way to start. But by far my favourite method of cutting out polymer clay is definitely with a plastic cutter, and you want to be looking for ones that have a nice sharp edge because otherwise they're quite a pain to use. The ones that I sell in my Etsy shop are really easy to use. You just press down, lift up, lift your clay away, super easy. They're not going to be as sharp as metal cutters, but if you get a good one they are pretty sharp. And you can see that there's a little bit of residue around the edges. All you do with your finger is you smooth. Very easy, it comes right away and there's very little sanding. And you can see no edges, no joint seams. So it means that you don't have much sanding to do. It means you don't have to smooth it out along the edges, and there is no distortion, so they are great for symmetrical shapes such as squares, rectangles and triangles. But make sure that you look for a good brand of plastic cutters because some of them aren't made the best way, so they can be a little bit blunt and then you have lots of smushy stuff around the edges, and that can make it's a lot harder to cut out your bead, and you might as well use a metal one. Now another one I just want to point out when cutting out polymer clay is if you have a crackled surface. Now I have a little bit of crackles on here, and your first instinct is going to be to go over the top, find your pattern where you like it, and then cut straight down. And with any of the methods that we use today, that is not going to work. If you have a crackled surface, you always want to put your clay back side down, front side down, and then cut out. And I'll show you why in just a second. So we'll cut out our bead, and you always want to press quite hard because you are essentially going to be cutting through baked polymer clay. So press down, and that should come straight out the cutter, and it will give you a nice neat edge. And use that with any, if you're using a template, if you're using a metal clay cutter, if you're using a plastic cutter, that is the way you want to do it. However, if you're going to do it the front way up, this is what's going to happen. So let me just make sure I've got backing there. Okay, and now this one has very little crackles, so it might not show up as well as the others. You're going to get a lot of residue around the edges, and your crackle pattern is going to kind of lift up around the edges. So I'm not sure if you can see that. But you can see we've got a lot of residue, we've got a lot of damage around the edges to the crackle pattern, and this is a very light crackle pattern. The worse, the more crackled it is, the worse it is. So let me bring over another one which is a lot more crackled. Okay, and here is a piece of black clay that has really been crackled, so hopefully you can see that that's a much stronger crackle than what I showed before. And I just want to show you what it looks like back side and then front side. So my entire cutter's not going to fit on here, but that doesn't matter. So I'll cut down, lift out, and you can see we have a little bit of residue around the edges. You can just gently smooth that away, but all in all you get a pretty clean pattern, and most of the residue will just be left on your tile and you can just wipe that away with your blade. Now if we do it the other way around, I just want to show you how much less, it's not as neat. It's not a huge disaster, but you can see it with a lot of residue around the edges. The crackle is bowing out towards the edges, and it just doesn't come across as neat. So hopefully there you can see the difference. So always, if there is a crackle pattern, cut your piece with your front side facing down. So that is basically it for this tutorial, and so I do hope that it was helpful to you. If it was, please do let me know in the comments below. If you have more ideas for tutorials like this, let me know as well, as I am setting up an entire beginner's course. You might be watching this as a beginner's course, so let me know and I will put those videos suggestions on the list, and I'll try to get to them as quickly as I possibly can. And I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.